Hello, everybody, and welcome to Figma for EDU's monthly workshop. Today, we're going to be talking about prototyping interactions. We're going to talk about scrolling interactions, smart animate interactions. I'm going to give you a primer on easing. I know that folks oftentimes ask a lot of questions about easing, and we're also going to talk about interactive components or nested interactions. I'm going to begin by clicking on this first page. So I know many of you have downloaded this file, so you're in your own copy of this file. I'm going to click on this first page up here in the top left, and you're going to see that I have a number of examples. I'm going to walk through these examples to show you what's happening and then create a quick mock-up of how this interaction works. So before I do, all prototypes in Figma require that a single frame is created. So if I were to draw a frame, you see this is called frame 6. I'm going to type in start. I'm just going to put a little circle in this file here. I'm going to come over to this frame and I'm going to choose an iPad Pro 11 inch. Here we go. So I have a frame. I just have a circle in it. And here I'm going to change the orientation to horizontal. Now I'm going to click on that frame and press Shift Spacebar, right? So what that's going to do is give you a preview of whatever is designed in that frame, and it's going to give it to you in that desired frame. So once again, all prototypes require that you start with a frame. So let's walk through and show some of what we're going to cover today. This is an example of a mini map, and we're going to talk about the interactions that are sitting underneath it and walk you through how to do it. I'm going to select this frame. I'm going to press Shift Space Bar to play it. And now you'll notice that it has the device, and there's 4 simple buttons here on the left. And when I click on those buttons, it's navigating to different areas in a little map that we have created here. So when I interact with this right side, you can see that I'm able to navigate that in that right side area. And this is using scroll to interactions. So this is going to be the first concept that we're going to cover today. This interaction is making use of a map that's generated here. And I'm going to walk you through how to create that. Let's take a look at just one other example of what can be created with a scroll to interaction. Once again, I'm going to select the second frame here on the canvas. For those of you that are new, you haven't really been in Figma before, I am using the space bar to click and drag and navigate these pages. Another way to navigate pages as well, I can press the function key and go up and down on my keyboard. So I'm able to navigate pages this way. You can also use the page up, page down. So if you're in the file, you're still on that first page, hit that page down key. It'll take you to that second page. If you're not quite sure where you're looking for, hit the space bar. You can click and drag. And then here you'll see the second prototype. I'm going to press Shift and space bar, and that will take you to that prototype. So this is just another example of how that scroll to interaction can behave. And we're going to break that down and I'm going to walk through how to generate it. So I'm going to hop on over here to the left of the screen. And folks, remember, this is going to be recorded, so you will be able to watch it later and get the full experience of how to generate this example. I'm going to press the F key and I'm going to draw a new frame. Now, when as I'm working here, I'm working in that iPad size. The sizing of this page is going to be primarily those iPad prototypes. So I'm going to click on this frame. I'm going to come over here to the right design toolbar. Let's increase the scale of my interface just a little bit so it's easier for y'all to see at home. I'm going to click on this frame. I'm going to come over here to the right. And for today's example, we're going to focus on an iPad Pro 11. And I can change the orientation of this frame by clicking over here on the right. So we're going to make an iPad example. And let's name this, live example. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to draw out a kind of like a frame window. So I'm going to draw another frame. So I'm going to press the F key, right? And then this then becomes the frame window that we're going to work. Okay. I'm going to drag this down here so we kind of have our little like working area for it. If I want to, I can also click on the right and draw fill. And we're going to call this our map. Okay. So we have our frame that is going to serve as like our app, right? That's kind of like that area. Then we have this nested frame. The nested frame, I can easily move it in and out of this main frame here, right? And we're going to use this for prototyping. So what we're going to do is to make it a map that has all of these areas that we're going to scroll left and right to. We need an image that is larger than the visible area of the map, right? So when we look over here to our other example, we have a frame that is just zooming in on just like one portion of the map, but then we have an entire map. So it needs to have area that is outside of that map to view. So what we're going to do here, I'm actually going to head on over to maps.google.com. You can see that I'm located here in Rochester, New York. I am going to take a screenshot of this map just for this example. So on my Mac, I'm going to hit Control Command Shift 4, and that's going to allow me to take a screenshot. So on whatever platform you are, feel free to take a screenshot. And I'm going to hop back over here and I'm going to paste that map. And I can make this map a little bit larger. Remember, it needs to be a large area. Okay. And I want you all to see what we're working with here. Once again, this is a little bit more of an advanced example, but it's a fun one to understand how this interaction takes place. So we've created a map that is our app frame. We've created another frame that is kind of like our window into that map. And then we have the map itself. So I can drop this image, right? This kind of actual map right in here, right? And then now we have an area of that map. So I'll show you how that works once again. If you're paying attention over here on the left, you'll see that there is the actual app, right? So I'm going to say iPad. Then we have our map. I'm going to call this our map window. I'm actually just double clicking on those names and renaming those. And then here we actually have our map. And I can drag this map into the map window. And just like that, we're going to create this really cool interaction where it's going to navigate around. You can just cut it and paste it right in with Command X and Command V or Control X and Control V. So now that our map is inside of this map window, right? I can now drag this map window inside of this app. Now, this is a great activity for teaching people how nesting works in Figma. And the way that that nesting works is here you can say, I have this frame. There's my iPad frame. Inside of that is the map window. That's kind of like our visual area. And then inside of that, we have that image map. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to select this window and we want to create it as a scrolling window. Okay, so I know some folks are viewing the Figma file. You can't see the iPad map window. We're creating this. You can take a look at the example that's here and you can kind of walk through that. This one is a different organization. You can see there's a map area. And then in here, there's a map. It's going to be the same nesting structure. So here's my iPad. Let's darken that up. Let's make it like a little bit of a darker app. And then here we have a window, and then inside we have a little map, right? And so what we're going to do, this is going to be the key concept. I'm going to select that frame. And with this frame selected, I'm going to come over here to the design panel on the right. You notice that there's this option. It's called prototype. And when we're in prototyping mode, we're in a slightly different mode. Things behave a little bit different when we are in the the mode. So you'll see that the position says scroll with parent, but then this overflow is what we care about. So we have that map window, and inside of the map window frame, we have that whole image area, and that overflows to the right and to the bottom. So we're going to set that to, if we set it to horizontal scrolling, right, we can get a preview of it by selecting that frame, pressing Shift Spacebar, and we could scroll this map horizontally, right? So I'm scrolling the map horizontally, left and right. I could leave that open. I'm going to hold this over here. Let's make that a little bit smaller. There we go. I can see that it's scrolling horizontally, but now I can select that window and instead I can change the overflow to, let's try vertical. Let's see what happens when I make it vertical. Will that work? Okay, now the map is only vertical. So let's make this a scrolling map and we're going to change that to both directions, right? So now that it's set with both directions, you can see that I can navigate to all of these other areas inside of this map. And I'm able to navigate it. Okay. So once again, just so we can see that structure and just so you can see how flexible this is, right? I have the iPad frame. I have this other frame. I'm just going to drag it right on out. That's that map window. And then inside that map window, we have this image that is kind of representing our area. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how this is constructed. This is actually using what is known as a component, right? So this component then has instances, right? I can duplicate little instances of that, and they're essentially copies of the same thing. Okay, so we're going to take this image, we're going to convert it to a component, right? So I just converted it to a component. So there it is. We have this nested component. We're going to copy that, right? And we have a copy of that component. And this is now an instance. You'll see over here on the right that we have the main component and then we have the instance, right? So this is just the copy. This is the main one, right? That's the defining one. So if we make changes in here, it's going to be reflected here. So we're going to take that and we're going to paste it inside of the map window, and I can navigate that around. And that map window is going to go here into our iPad, right? And we want to make sure in prototype mode that our map window is overflowing in both directions. Let's preview that one more time, and it's navigating around. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create areas of interest in this map that we can then navigate to. So I'm going to just draw a rectangle. This rectangle is going to be a button. And this button can be anything. So right now, because we're learning the concept, we're just going to start with like a simple kind of like prototype of this button. It could just be a rectangle. I'm going to round out those corners a little bit. Let's give it a little splash of color. So I'm going to hop over here to the right, give it a little splash of color. So what we're going to do is we want to create an interaction where this button goes to a very specific point on this map, right? So here's our map, and we're going to create an area of interest, right? And it's almost going to be like its own little window size. So let's take a look at our current window size. Our current window size, it's not actually a very nice size. So I'm going to hold the command key and make it a little bit better. Let's make it, 664. I like nice even numbers by 682. There we go. It's 664 by 682. That is our area of interest. Okay. So here we're going to create two buttons. I'm going to make another little window. We're just making a simple prototype where we're creating an easy example that we can then use later on. So we're prototyping our prototype. Going to go to the design panel. Let's unclip that content, but let's draw a little rectangle and let's size it. There we go. We're going to draw a little rectangle, and this rectangle needs to go inside of map window as well. So if I make it very light, let's make it like a 20% opacity, and we're going to make that one fuchsia, and then we're going to make this one, like a slight blue. And then these become our targets. This is where we're going to animate to. So I'm going to name this one target 1, and I'm going to name this one target 2. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just kind of creating those targets. You need that same level of nesting in order for them to become available. But here we go. Let's make that a component. And I believe that's what I did over here. So over here, I have a window area component. And that was the one step that I wasn't really partaking of. So let's generate that as a component. I'm going to hop it in here. And we got area 1 and we have area 2. And we want to make sure that they're nested inside of our map. So here's our map window. They're nested in here. So let's say target 2, and here is target 1. And then this one, we're just going to paste and make sure it's on the outside. We're just going to call this target. So we have the two areas, and let's go into that prototype. And now I'm able to drag these. We're going to go from the prototype to those respective areas. And in order for these to work, they need to be nested inside of map window. So there's our map window. When I go to the design panel, we can clip that content, and we're going to check that prototyping noodle, and you'll see that we have two prototyping noodles. Let's set up the other one, right? And then this one, we're going to change that fill color to be blue. And here we're going to navigate there to that blue one. There we go. So we have these two noodles. And what's cool about the noodles is I can shift click and select them both. And I can change properties of them that are shared. So I can go here and I could change them both to animate. And we're going to set an ease in and out animation. And we can determine how long we want that animation to be. So we're going to set that animation to be about 500 milliseconds, or about a half a second. And let's see it. So we're going to click on that. I'm going to close this window, and let's clip the component. I'm going to select the iPad, and boom, there we go. We have to make sure our interactions are sound though. So right now we're going to choose on tap. We're going to remove these excess interactions that we have. I'm going to select that object, look at my interactions. I have that tap target here going to that second one, and we are there. We finally got it. We got here together, folks. This has been a group effort. Let's make a third button. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to hold down the option key. I'm going to drag. Let's make a third button. We're going to make that third button there. And here with this button, I'm going to go into that prototype mode. Let's unclip that content. Let's make a third area. This one's going to be the center of Rochester. Let's make that green. There we go. It's our little green one. And at the very end, what we could do is we're using this to test out our area, and then we can get it to work. So let's get our third interaction going. Let's go to design. Let's unclip that content. Let's go to our prototype. We have our green button. All we need to do is just drag that noodle there. It's that third option there. All of those are nested inside of the frame. We hit clip content, and we go, and we have green, fuchsia, blue. And then now if we want to undo that at all, we can unclip that content. We can select all of these and hide that color. So I can select all three and say, hey, you're 0%, or let's choose 1%, 1%, 1%, and 1%. This way it still registers as an object. And we're going to clip that content, and that's going to work. So if we want, we can dial this up by adding in a nice little map icon object, right? So I can paste this in. Let's grab our little map icon object. Let's throw it in the center of each of those points. I press Shift O, and now when I select that, I can clip that content. Want to make sure that these are all inside of our map window. I'm going to drag that over here in the bottom left to the map window. And now we can go to each of our locations, and we have a nice little feedback, and it's all working. Congratulations. Yeah, so it seems that the this target doesn't match. So right now it's like 596 by 622. So I could do the same thing. I say 596 by 622, and then that'll match the size. So we could select the iPad, we can click on it, and it's going to go to each one of those points, and we're generating it here. So feel free to check out this example too. This is constructed in exactly the same way, where we have that. You can use it for side scrolling as well. So let's say, by the way, thank you. I really appreciate you. Appreciate it. Love the little rocket ships, the emojis. Continue on. So for anybody wanting to be in this file, once again, this is the prototyping tool one. You could head on over to Figma's community, figma.com/@education to use this file. So we have another example here. Hopefully this is an example doesn't take as much time. I'm going to press Shift Space Bar. So we have here nested sticky scrolling. So nested sticky scrolling, basically the way that this works is as I scroll, you can create content that will stick with the flow, right? And the way that this works, I'm just going to walk through this because we have a lot more content to cover. But the way that this works is within this frame, there is a nested frame. And in that nested frame, there's a different position style. It's called sticky, where it stops at the top edge. So if I was to draw a frame, I make that frame background. Let's make it, blue. I have these little arrows I'm going to paste inside just so you can see how we're scrolling up. I'm going to select this frame and I'm going to set it as the iPad mini frame. Let's unclip that content. Oh, no, not, did I say iPad mini? What did I want? I was using the iPad Pro 11. There we go. I'm going to drag those over and make sure that they're all nested within this frame. So if I clip this content, we're going to make that horizontal. There we go. And if I clip the content, you see it cuts. Okay, so I can have text in here. I'm going to call this stick, just so we could see it stick. We're going to make that bold. Let's make that large. And now this element, it's going to be inside of the frame. And when I go to that prototype panel, you see scroll with parent. We're going to make it sticky so it stopped at the top edge. And you'll see that when I run this and I scroll, I have to make sure that I set scrolling vertical on that frame, scroll behavior vertical. There we go. I'm taking it for granted that that's on. You'll see that as I'm scrolling, it will stick to the top no matter where it is. So if it starts there, as I begin to scroll, it'll stick and it'll stay. Now, what's cool about this is you can have different smaller sections that will keep their stickiness. So I can have a section inside of a section, right? So in here, we have these smaller sections and they stick in their nested element, right? So if I was to create a slightly longer area there, let's make that red. And I'm going to also make this stick. And let's frame this selection. I'm going to call this area 2. And this is all about nesting behaviors, right? Because this is our iPad, right? And inside of there, there's those objects. And I'm going to bring this out. Let's put this in here, right? So you can see how that scroll behavior is working. We want to make sure we have this all working together. I'm going to bring this down. So this is nested. I'm going to select that object, and this object is going to be positioned sticky, and it's going to be put into our iPad, and we're going to put it lower. So here's our iPad. It's all sticking together, right? And then I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to put another one below. So this is now area 3. And let's make area 3 a different color so you could see that work. So when I clip my iPad, we don't see that area anymore, right? It's all clipped, but it's all inside. So when we scroll, we're going to scroll through this content, and then each of these are going to stick to their respective parents. So when I scroll stick, it stays, right? I'm scrolling and it stays. And you see it moves on. It remembers its top position and then it continues on. So that's nested sticky scrolling. So yeah, so if that option weren't applied, if I was to select those and just say scroll with parents, the way that it would behave as we scroll, it just moves right on through. But we want that option to stay for like a little bit. And so we go here and we choose sticky, right? So it's like an advanced interaction. So just how we can have this content kind of scroll and move up, we can select this option and we can scroll and move up, and it stays for a little bit and then kind of moves along with other content. So it's looking at its parent frame, and that parent frame is unable to scroll. Okay, so yeah, the section's recorded and we're going to continue. So Next, we're going to talk about Smart Animate. I've talked about this in a number of previous workshops. Smart Animate looks across frames and allows you to animate in between those frames. When you're smart animating, what you are doing is you are tweening between objects. You're able to animate certain properties of objects, such as their position, their color, their scale. So you can animate these properties in a way that showcase to anyone looking at them, right? It's like representing some type of animation. So you're able to see how this is kind of like moving and happening here, right? So these animations are can be used with interactions. So how am I opening up the window? You'll notice that each of these have like a little prototyping button when you're in prototype mode. But when you're in design mode, you can select that first frame and then press Shift Space Bar for the preview. So either if you're in design mode, you click on one of those frames and you press Shift Space Bar, you'll see it in the prototyping mode. However, when you click on the prototyping tab, you can then preview it there. Now, if you want to see this in a full prototyping view, you can always come up here and open this in presentation view. So that'll give you this view that is isolated to the presentation, and it allows you to see any other prototypes that you have on that frame over here on the left. So I'm able to kind of have a showcase of these respective interactions. So I'm seeing some questions. Can they be easily recreated in Webflow? There is a Lottie plugin, a Lottie Files plugin that can be worked with these types of animations that will honor them, and you can generate them as Lottie, but I won't be covering that today. So yes, there is a Lottie plugin for all of these animations. Okay. So I'll explain how smart animation works. Let's get right to it. I'm going to draw a frame here. I'm going to go to the design panel. I'm going to make this frame. Let's make it, let's do the iPad Pro 11, right? We've already been doing that. I'm going to make this horizontal. So I'm going to draw an object on the stage. I'm going to draw a shape. I'm going to come up over here and I'm going to use a polygon. So I'm going to click and I'm going to draw this polygon. Now, this is a triangle object. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series of frames and I'm going to use a different interaction type. So with the scrolling interaction, we use a tap. And for this, I can use a different interaction type. So I'm going to have frame one, frame two, and frame three. Now, you'll notice that the triangle across all three is called polygon one. Now, the naming and the layer position means everything for Smart Animate. It has to understand what you're animating from and what you're animating to. So I'm actually going to demonstrate some new behaviors that we have in Figma. When I select this triangle, I can come up here and there's this option called select matching layers. It'll select the triangle across all three frames, giving me the ability to edit the triangle across all frames. What I'm going to do to animate this triangle better is I'm going to come up here with all of them selected. I'm going to select the triangle. I'm going to select all matching frames, and I'm going to create them as a component. When I do so, you'll see that this triangle gets pushed out, right? So all three of these triangles are instances. They're the same object. Now, in each frame, I can make some changes. I can position the triangle, I can rotate the triangle, and I can scale the triangle, right? So I can move the triangle over here in frame two, and I can rotate and I can scale the triangle over here in frame three. So I could change number of properties about each of these frames and create an interaction where it animates across all three. So what I'm going to do is in frame one, I'm going to change the fill of the background. I'm going to change that to blue. And I'm going to change the color of my shape. I'm going to come down here to selection colors and change the color of my shape. So there we go. Let's make that like, let's make it yellow. There we go. So I'm going to show you how these change. Now, let's create an interaction between these three. I'm going to select the first frame and I'm going to create an interaction from the first frame to the second frame. So you notice how I'm able to just click and drag a noodle between them. And the event handler here, instead of a tap, instead of while pressing, we're going to choose after delay. What after delay does is says after a set period of time, go from this frame to this frame. I'm going to choose 1 millisecond. If you type 0, it'll say 1 millisecond because 0 milliseconds doesn't really exist. So after 1 millisecond, it's kind of like in an instant, we're going to navigate to that second frame. And we're going to choose Smart Animate. Smart Animate, once again, it looks at all the layers, it looks at the names of the layers and says, how can I animate from one to the next one? We're going to choose, let's say for this, let's use a custom animation. Once again, I'll show you how these eases work in just a moment. This is an ease in out. And right now we have 500 milliseconds. Let's make that shorter, a little bit snappier. Let's say 350 milliseconds. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to drag another interaction, and you'll see that once we drag another interaction, it's going to keep a lot of our properties. And to make this a perfect loop, what we're going to do is I'm going to select this frame here, and I'm going to select this frame here. Oh, thanks, Jean Paul. I'm going to select this frame here, and I'm going to drag this back. We're going to navigate back to 1. We want to make sure that we choose after delay, and that our after delay is set to 0. Now, once again, when you're animating, you'll see that these noodles, right? Sometimes when I'm animating, I move things around, right? And you'll see that I have this noodle goes here. I have this noodle goes here. And you can shift click all of those noodles at the same time. And if you want to normalize values, let's say you want to make sure and change the timing across all 3, we could change that here. So I could say we're all 300, or, we are all the same easing animation, right? So we're going to navigate all 3. And now let's preview this. I'm going to press the shift key and the space bar key, and we could see if it's working, right? And it's like it went up there. It doesn't seem to be working. What did we do wrong? I'm going to click here. Let's take a look at our interaction. It's a click, right? And that's okay. Let's fix that. We're going to come here and we're going to change that to after delay, and we're going to set that to 0. So another way we can evaluate all of our interactions, I'm going to click all of them right here. They're all should be after delay. Let's hit the first frame, space. There we go. We got our animation, and it's going, and it's wild, right? And it's animating. Now, while this is animating, we can actually go to one of these frames and change the design live. I can come here, I can make that purple. Let's select our frame 2. Let's change the background of that to like red. We can go to frame 3 here, and we could change that fill to like green, and we could change the color of that triangle to let's say blue, right? And it's live updating. Now, let's close that out. I'm going to go to prototype mode, and let's change that transition. Maybe that was happening too fast for us. Let's change that transition now to 1000 milliseconds, right? And here, we can move these frames around. You'll see the noodles happening between them. I'm going to select that first frame. I'm going to press shift space bar, and we can see the animation take place. And now I'm going to click on these ellipses up here, and we're going to say follow active frame. And it's going to tell me where we are in Figma, right? It's like, oh, okay, you're on this frame, 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 you're on this frame. So I could turn off follow active frame. And then this way it'll just be animating here. This will give us a sense of how this is working. Now, once again, when you're in the design panel, you can control, like how the animation is playing out while it's being previewed. So I'm changing this, and I can see my animation update live. So I'm animating those properties, seeing how they work, and it gives me a good sense of how it's working. So here I can rotate that, I can kind of scale it, I can bring it down, and it gives me a sense of that. Now I know we've been talking about easing, right? And I use the easing curves. In this file, we have an easing cheat sheet. And I like to use this as an example when teaching Figma. So I'm going to select this first frame here. I'm going to press Shift Space Bar, and I have a little click that shows the different types of eases that you can get in Figma. Once again, this takes place when you include any type of transition, any type of animation. You could see the ease represented as the points on this graph. So linear is good for a constant animation. If you have something that's rotating constantly, linear is good for that. Linear is also good if something goes from off screen to off screen. If it just zooms on by, linear represents constant motion. The reason a lot of people say linear is bad is because if it does it goes at a constant motion. It doesn't ease up or slow down. It doesn't gain speed or slow. It's just constant. So it looks very robotic. But it's great for rotation, and um, it's great for moving something from entirely off screen to entirely off screen. And ease in out is one of my favorites, and it's represented by this little S curve here. And what that means is that it starts from a stop position, it gains speed, and then it slows down. And it mimics the way that we see things move in real life. So I have a bunch of other examples here. Let's see how ease out works with position, right? I can begin to edit and see, oh, wow, okay, how does that object move? I can use this example too. I can select those points, and I could change the duration to like 1,000 milliseconds, because when you're easing, you want to think about the size and the weight of an object. And if it's very big, then it should take a longer time to get from point A to point B. Let's take a look at an ease in out back. An ease in out back has like a little bit more expressiveness to it, right? And this is the way that that curve looks, where it kind of goes under and then kind of goes over again. And so it kind of winds up and it kind of overshoots and it kind of comes back, right? So the ease in, right? This is great for when something is just moving off screen entirely, right? So it's starting from a stop position and it's gaining speed and it's moving off screen, and it's kind of represented as this like little curve. It's kind of going up in this way, right? So it's has no speed and it's gaining speed and it's moving off screen. And ease out is the reverse of that, where something's off screen and it's coming on screen and it slows down, right? So let's start that over. Let's go back to the previous frame. Here we go. Let's play that again. So it's off screen and it comes in and it slows down. An ease out in is a unique one in that I call this the inner world, right? It's like when you watch a movie trailer and the text comes from off screen, comes on screen, it slows down for a little bit, never stops moving, and then goes off screen again, right? And that's an ease out in. So that's when something is off screen, it kind of comes on screen, slows down for a little bit, and goes off screen. And then an ease out in back kind of like bounces a little bit in the process. All right. So this is a great example. If you're a teacher, if you're a student, you need a nice little primer, go through that file. The last thing we're going to talk about in Figma is nested interactions. I'm going to show you a few ways in which these work. Thank you, Alex. So here, when I hit this play button, you'll see that there's a number of objects on this screen. It's only one frame, but they're all animating at the same time. This file can be gotten from figma.com/@education, and you can grab it right here. So I just saw that question. All right, so this frame has a number of objects. These are all nested animations, right? So they're able to kind of exist in one place at the same time. I'm going to show you how that works. First off, I'm going to hop back over to our like little easing animations, our smart animate. I'm going to paste these frames. Oops. Let me come back to my smart animate. I'm going to copy this. And here, I'm going to hit paste, right? So we have our little looping frame. Let's say we take this, right? And I'm going to have this like little interaction, right? We have this little trio. I'm going to select all three of those frames, go to the design panel, and I'm going to remove that fill so they're transparent. I'm going to select each of those frames, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to come up here. I'm going to create a component set, right? So a component set creates our nested interaction, right? So we have frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. And we make this into its own component. So I'm going to call this triangle animation. So I can create a frame, and I'm going to copy and paste the triangle animation. Let's duplicate a few of those instances here, right? And so if I preview this, you'll see that they're all inside of that frame as their own little objects. But let's change their starting positions. So in the design panel, I could change which frame they're starting from, right? So these are all basically copies of this interaction here. So you can, if you ever want to see those frames, and hit command forward slash and say show frame outlines. Oh, I guess it doesn't show the nested frame outlines. That's a bummer. Um, but when I play this, right, you could see that all of the animations are just kind of playing on their own. So let's create a very simple one and walk you through that. I'm going to create a frame. I'm going to draw in, I'm going to press the rectangle key. I'm going to make a little X. So let's draw in a rectangle. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to hit Command D, Control D if you're on Windows, rotate that. I'm going to select them both. And here I'm going to make them a component, right? So this is a main component. I'm going to drop it in here. I'm going to call this start. So I have one frame. I'm going to duplicate this frame, Command D. And I'm going to duplicate this frame again, Command D. And let's say middle. And let's say here, end. So I'm going to create an interaction. I'm going to go to my prototype window. I'm going to drag from that cross, from the little like X mark, on click, we're going to navigate to the middle and we're going to smart animate. Let's choose a quick, snappy smart animation, 350 milliseconds. Now here too, we're going to click on it and we're going to navigate to that last frame, same thing. And then here, this last frame, we're going to click on it and we're going to go back to that first one. And now I can change the properties across all three. So let's rotate this one here. Let's make this one bigger, and then let's zoom this one out. All right, cool. 1 minute. That's all I need for this. Beautiful. So now when I play this, I can click and I can see the interactions happen. I can even come up here, follow active frame, and we could see how that works. Now let's make it a nested interaction, a component set. We're going to make it a nested one. I'm going to select all three of those frames, come up here, create a component set. Let's give it a name. I'm going to call this X animation. And if you want to, be sure to click on this. You can give proper naming to this. So we can say state, right? Start, end, middle. And now I can create another frame that has this in here. So we can have a bunch of these. Make command duplicate and a bunch of these down, bunch of these down, bunch of these down. And so when I play this frame, you could see that they're all going to keep their own approach. They're going to keep their own interaction, right? They're kind of building, and then I can click on them and then they kind of go back. So in the example that we have up here, that's what's taking place. We have a tic-tac-toe where we have kind of like a choose your own adventure, where if you click on O, it becomes O. If you click on X, it becomes X. So what we have here is a prototype that allows you to navigate and interact with things, creating these really awesome micro interactions. All right, so we're going to wrap that up. Let's see, we have a few questions here. Awesome. Thank you all so much for hopping in today. Make sure you tell us how we're doing. Alex is going to be sharing a link in the chat. So please give us feedback. Once again, thanks for hanging in there today. I know we had some walkthrough issues, but really appreciate y'all for just sticking with it. So here we go. Is after delay just a way of saying it goes automatic if there's no click? So after delay basically says wait a set period of time before you do something. Right? So after delay could be used to set a variable. After delay can be used to open up an overlay, right? So after delay is just wait a period of time and do something. So if nobody does anything, it does something, it performs a behavior. So how does Smart Animate work? Smart Animate is basically tweening. So what tweening does is it looks at the position of each one of those objects and it attempts to create animated frames between them. So that's the reason why you can only do certain properties such as scale or rotate. You can't do true animation with tweening. You can just animate properties. So animate scale, rotation, position, color, right? So you're very limited in what you can animate, but you can get very creative with what you can animate. Is there a way to make scrolling automatic from one click? So that was the first thing that we covered, the scroll to interaction where you click and then it would scroll. Basically, here, what you would do is you would just set a longer delay so you could spend more time with the scrolling interaction. So if I click on this here, I could change that animation to be longer, where let's say 1200, and we can then scroll to see that. So when I click on this first one, what you're doing is let me see, you're scrolling to that location. So the scroll to is how you create an animation or an automatic click. And then can you navigate from one page to a specific paragraph or to on another page? You can't animate between different pages in Figma, but what you can do is link two different prototypes. So if I was to click right here, if I was to open up a prototype, I can generate a link from this prototype and I can actually navigate to it. So if I was to create a prototype with just a simple button, um, I can create an interaction where I click and I open a link and I can paste to that, and I could choose not to open in a new tab. So then this way, when I play this as a prototype, and whoa, that's huge. Let's say I play this as a prototype and I click on that button. When I click on that button, it'll open up to a new prototype. So that's how you can link between frames. When you're thinking about prototyping, you want to think each frame is its own device. And then this way you can set the device. The devices get set right here. You select, you go to prototype, show prototype settings, and then here's where you choose the device that gets set. When you choose the device in that prototype options, then select a frame, then press Shift Spacebar. That'll be the device that you see in that preview window. So if you saw in these other frames, we didn't have a preview device. That's because that preview device hadn't been set in the prototype interactions. Okay, that's going to be it all. Once again, thank you. Let us know how we're doing. Appreciate y'all for joining us today. We hope you have a great weekend. Take care. And thank you.